Being able to grow grains that are used within a few 100-mile radius of where they're grown makes so much difference as far as transportation.
Puts new meaning to the term food miles.
It sure does. I mean, we were at an interesting talk last year that Michael Abelman, who's a writer and an organic vegetable farmer, did out in Wisconsin. And he said that every tomato that you buy in the store should have a little stamp on it, odometer, that shows how many miles it's traveled before it gets to your mouth. Which, you know, it would be a good idea, because it put it all, this whole issue of imported and well-traveled food into perspective. But we have to think further than that, because the energy that is required to bring grain to feed the meat that you eat is just as important as the tomato that you eat. And that's the issue that we see, being able to grow things locally. I had an interesting experience about a year ago. Got a phone call out of the blue from someone from Ag Canada. And this is pertinent, I guess, probably to this conference, because his question was, what can PEI do to make itself unique as far as crops that it would grow? And he was talking about grains. You know, how can PEI be a sustainable, unique region that would be more profitable? And we talked for a long time, and I said that one of the real benefits of PEI, you know, who am I to say? I know nothing about PEI agriculture, and I don't know anything about what will grow here. But I said, from my limited experience, a week when I was 17 on PEI, one of the real advantages that seems like you all would have is that you could be a GMO-free zone very easily, if you chose to be. Because you are far enough away from other corn or grain-growing areas that you'd be able to have the isolation that most other areas don't have. It'd be really good. I said, but if you're going that far, why don't you just make it an organic zone? And have PEI be a unique area for growing organic crops. He said, well, blah, blah, blah. You know, he didn't want to go quite that far. But unique areas, like an island out in the middle of a good deal of isolation, could be a really valuable selling point for a lot of crops, because you would be isolated and you could be considered a you know, added market, added value kind of thing.
How do you if PEI had that special thing in the market is New York and Boston and Toronto.
How do you get it there?
And you get that odometer reading again. We have a special crop here.
Well, and then that was his next question. Would you buy it if we grew it? And I said, well, it depends on the cost. Yeah.
Your highest price is going to be what you use here. So if you could send a value-added finished product,
like the pork that Susan said that you all were talking about this morning. You know, if you could raise pork here, fed by your grains, then you'd be able to ship something that would be more concentrated in value.
those food miles are going to have a smaller proportion of or component of transportation on them than if you were to grow the grain and send it somewhere to the United States to grow the pork. And also, if you do that, you're sending the money out of town.
Yeah.
You know, think about this like, remember the old pinball machines where you try to keep the ball playing? You ought to think about a local dollar like that ball. And the longer you can keep it bouncing back and forth between people in your community, the more it multiplies.
We have a lot of friends in Vermont, and one of the things that's really impressed us by Vermont is that they have developed a very high level of awareness of how grown in Vermont matters. You know, and local Vermont produce and local Vermont maple syrup and local Vermont anything has sort of a better value than if it came from anywhere else. Why not here? You all could be doing the same thing with your locally grown grains, as grown in Nova Scotia, grown in PEI, as being a better quality product than you can get anywhere else.